Do your brakes sound like this? Squeak, squeak! That's a sign that you may need new brake pads. We're going to show you the basic process of changing your brake pads, and we'll be demonstrating on our '02 Honda Civic. If you're relatively handy and have basic tool skills, you'll be able to do this fairly simply. This will save you a lot of money, but keep in mind, while changing your brake pads is a relatively universal thing to do, make sure to do some research on your specific vehicle before you get started.
To change your brake pads, you will need the following tools: a car jack, jack hook, and a lug wrench. In the '02 Civic, these will be located in the trunk of the car, under the carpet. However, note that locations may vary for different car models. You'll also need new brake pads, a brake spreader, thread locker, and a socket wrench with a 12mm socket. All of these items are obtainable from your local car shop. We went to AutoZone to obtain these parts, but you can find them at any car shop or at any online car shop websites. Caution: incorrect completion of any part of these instructions could result in damage to your car. Warning: a variety of injuries could occur, ranging from broken bones to bumps and bruises. Danger: death could occur. The first step is to loosen your lug nuts before you raise your car up on the jacks. Take your lug wrench and put it on a lug nut and turn it counterclockwise. This may be difficult since the lug nuts may be rusted. If they are stuck, we suggest taking the lug wrench and putting it at an angle and then kicking it to break the lug nuts free. Loosen all 4 lug nuts on your tire, but do not take the lug nuts off. Only get them unstuck. The reason that you want to break the lug nuts free before you raise your car up on jacks is that if you break the lug nuts free while on the jacks, you risk knocking the car off the jacks. Next, you will jack up the car. Before placing the jack under the car, give the height adjuster on the jack about 20 half turns. This is just to prep the jack so that you don't have to make as many turns while it's under the vehicle. Next, slide the jack underneath the car to the designated jack point, making sure to center the jack under this point. The jack point is a protruded piece of metal with a bolt in it. Then, turn the jack height adjuster by hand until the jack is touching the car and it is difficult to turn anymore by hand. You will then hook the jack hook into the hole on the height adjuster and then attach the lug wrench to the jack hook by placing the end of the jack hook through the hole in the lug wrench. Finally, turn the lug wrench in a clockwise direction to raise the car up. Raise the car until you are able to take the lug wrench and run it under the elevated tire. Now you'll take the tire off. First, loosen the lug nuts using the lug wrench so that you can turn the lug nuts by hand. Now, using your hands, turn the lug nuts until they come off. Remove all 4 lug nuts and set these aside for later. Remove the hubcap by grabbing it and pulling it off, and then remove the wheel by grabbing it and pulling it off. The wheel may be stuck and be difficult to remove, so if so, just whack the wheel with your hand to break it free. Next, you will remove the old brake pads. To do this, you must first remove the brake caliper. First, locate the bottom bolt on the brake caliper. It's a nut located towards the bottom of the caliper. Using your ratchet with a 12mm socket, remove the bolt and set it aside for later. Grab the brake caliper and rotate up. The caliper should still be attached to the top of the rotor, but the brake pad should now be exposed. Grab the brake pad closest to the exterior of the car and pull it out. You may have to wiggle it a bit to get it out. Pay attention to the orientation of the pad when you remove it because you will need to install the new brake pad in the same way. Repeat this process with the brake pad closest to the interior. Now you can install new brake pads. Obtain the new brake pad from the side closest to the interior of the car and install it in the same orientation that the old brake pad was in. Note that the rear brake pad is the one that has the retention clip. Repeat this process with the new brake pad for the side closest to the exterior of the car, ensuring that you install it in the same orientation as the old pad you removed. With the brake pads now installed, it is time to close the caliper. However, if you attempt to close it now, you will notice that you are unable to do so. This is because the pistons located in the caliper are set to touch the worn brake pads. Therefore, you must adjust this to be able to close the caliper. Obtain your brake pad spreader kit, taking the thin metal piece and running the long screw through one of the holes. Place the thin metal just inside the brake caliper with the long screw on the bottom. Take an old brake pad and place it on the opposite side of the brake spreader, and then twist the screw until the piston is fully compressed. Remove the brake pad spreader and the old brake, and now you will be able to close the caliper. You may need to wiggle the caliper a little bit to get it past the new brake pads. With the caliper now back in place, all that is left to do is put the bolt back in. Before you do this, you will want to apply some thread locker to ensure that while driving down the road, the bolt won't come out due to the vibrations of the car. Apply thread locker around the threads in the bolt and screw the bolt back in to the spot that was once located by hand. Once you can no longer screw it in by hand, obtain your ratchet with the 12mm socket and tighten it until you are no longer able to do so. Now you need to put the tire back onto the car. Line up the 4 holes on the tire with the 4 bolts on the rotor and put the tire back onto the rotor. With the tire back in place, take your hubcap and place it back over the tire with the 4 holes on the hubcap running through the 4 bolts. Take your lug nuts and begin to screw them back on. Make sure that you do not tighten a single lug nut all the way down, but rather work in a circle, tightening each one bit by hand. Once you can no longer tighten the lug nuts by hand, reobtain your lug wrench and tighten all the lug nuts. Finally, you need to remove the jack from under the car. Reassemble the jack parts in the same fashion that you did when raising the car, and turn the lug wrench counterclockwise to lower the jack. Lower the jack until you are able to slide the jack out from under the car. A few cautionary warnings. Once your car is off the jack, take the lug wrench one more time and tighten all the lug nuts to make sure that they will not come off while driving. Also, pump your brakes 3 to 10 times to make sure that piston is now compressed onto the new brake pads. Thank you for watching and drive safely.